It's the unbeaten Stallions and the Brahmas. Birmingham is an 8.5-point road favorite here. The total also pretty low for two good offenses at 44. Forecast is indoors with a chance of the end of the Birmingham streak. So if the Stallions aren't careful with this very sneaky spot, they might lose their streak. How could that happen? So let's talk about the news of the week first for San Antonio. Chase Garber's off the IR and back practicing with the team. Now, in reading between the lines on Wade Phillips' media availabilities and his Wednesdays with Wade and all that, again doubling down on Quentin Dormady and putting some faith in his gunslinger, and also seeing some social clips from the Brahmas this week indicating Dormady bringing the huddle together, giving some pre-practice speeches. So he looks to be QB1 still, and I understand, just put Garbers back in practice. So this might be more of a long-term storyline where Garbers, needs a week or two, and then maybe he comes back for the playoffs or whatever. But I think it's pretty big here. That's notable news that Chase Garbers is back at practice. And really, it's the theme of the season for Wade Phillips and the Brahmas. They were ravaged with injuries early. Now they're getting just about everybody back. They're getting healthy at the right time. And, I mean, you think about it. Like I said, Chase Garbers, they got Anthony McFarland back last week. He goes off. He was their day one starting running back, clearly made a difference. They get two offensive line starters back. One of them, Alex Millette, who some of you remember from back in week one, caught a touchdown pass at center. And even defensively, you get potentially Darius Phillips, your top corner, back. He's in practice this week. So this is a good time for this playoff run to start shaping up for San Antonio. But they're going to have to capitalize on getting this talent back against the back-to-back champs. It won't be easy. How can San Antonio do it? To me, it's pretty simple. You got to utilize your speed here. Last week, we saw some glaring holes in that Birmingham defense that Houston was able to take advantage of, and it was really unlike Birmingham. And you look at that game and you say, okay, defensive coordinator John Chavis was out with an illness. We don't know the status of him right now, certainly wishing him the best, and we want Birmingham to be at their best because that's what's good for business. That definitely made a difference with Houston giving up 20 plus, I think, for the first time all season. Well, they did it against St. Louis as well, but they actually gave even more up to Houston last week. So, like I said on Sunday's show, I'm not willing to crucify the Birmingham defense for that, but it is something that San Antonio is certainly looking at on film. When you look at Birmingham's defense, to me, it's the linebacking core that is just full of studs, has really been the anchor. They make the big plays that they need to make in clutch moments. But if you're San Antonio, think about it. You got guys like McFarland lighting it up, John Lovett as kind of a thunder and lightning type deal with McFarland. Then you got Jontre Kirkland leading the league in targets, Cody Latimer starting to show out. So even if Chase Garbers isn't ready this week, I'm pretty confident they can score on the Birmingham defense with Quentin Dormady. One thing that disappoints me when it comes to A.J. Smith and the Brahmas offense is the consistency. If you watch the Brahmas, they seem to disappear for long periods of games. And, last week, you're just waiting for them to put Arlington away in the second half. They couldn't do it. They didn't score a single point. And some of that was on Ryan Santoso, who missed 2 chip shot field goals down the stretch. But you got to do better than that. Even 2 weeks ago against Houston, they couldn't put the Roughnecks away late in that one. They needed a sort of a miracle situation at the end. So they've got to start sustaining drives. But I know any A.J. Smith offense has one in them to be explosive, and I'm counting on them to get 24 to 28 points on the board against Birmingham. So I give a slight edge to this offense, but they got to be better on third down. They are just 36% on third down this year. You've got to do better. Got to get closer to 50. Let's look at the Birmingham offense now up against the Brahmas defense. A hell of a matchup. This is going to be the biggest test that San Antonio's defense has faced thus far since, week 3 against the Battlehawks. And they didn't pass that one. They gave up 31 to A.J. McCarron and co. And they were a little banged up sort of at the midseason point there. And, even in the loss that they took against D.C., they were missing their top 3 corners. The D-line has been shaken up at points. And really, the heartbeat of this defense for San Antonio has been the linebackers. And when you're going against a guy like Adrian Martinez, that's important. A.J. McCarron said himself, I like playing against San Antonio's linebackers because I feel a raised level of competition. Well, that's going to be Adrian Martinez this week. Plus, for the Brahmas, a guy like Jordan Mosley at safety is leading the UFL in tackles. So you could look at that one of two ways. You don't really want your safety maybe leading in tackles because that means a lot of people are getting to the second level of defense. But if you watch Mosley on film, it's not the case. He's flying up and he's playing run defense and he's stopping guys in the gap and he's looking real good. So I don't know. Even with those guys, I don't see how you hold Birmingham to under 30. I mean, you could point to the DC game. The defenders were able to hold Birmingham to under 30, but it took, an hour and a half rain delay to do that. And I don't think, Adrian Martinez didn't even start that night. So it's going to be tough for anybody to slow this offense, even a guy like Devontae Beckett, who has 8 TFLs and 2 forced fumbles. I think the streak probably means more to Birmingham than we even realize. The narrative surrounding this game is going to be, it's all about San Antonio. And I'm sure the broadcast will come on and say, Brahmas, this is your chance. You got to host a win. And the win against St. Louis week 10, you'll have a chance to host the XFL Conference Championship. But the biggest storyline in spring football is still this streak until we learn otherwise. I mean, you heard C.J. Johnson. He called Skip Holtz the king of spring, and that matters. They're at 15 straight right now, and they're not going to play the load management game where they start resting their starters when they got this streak on the line, on the road. But Birmingham, think about it. Birmingham 8-0, right? Clear-cut best team in the league. They're the favorites to win it all. So they have everything going for them right now except one thing, and that's their record against the spread. They're not perfect ATS. They did not cover in 3 of their last 4 games. They're 8-point favorites against DC, won by 2. 4.5-point favorites against St. Louis, won by 4. 16-point favorite last week against Houston, win by 7. And they were missing John Chavis. And they did have the rain delay, right? And it was only a 0.5 point against St. Louis. But those are not covers. Again, disclaimer, this is not a criticism of the Birmingham Stallions. The team doesn't care about any of that. They could care less about being against the spread. I'm not criticizing Birmingham. I'm criticizing the odds makers for clearly overrating this team again. That's what's happening here. And that matters if you want to make money watching the UFL. So they're not 8.5 points better than the Brahmas. This line should be closer to 5.5. And it's the number 1 scoring offense with the Stallions against the number 1 scoring defense in San Antonio. So you can't tell me it's 8.5. That's a huge number in football. I think we're in for a treat, guys. This is going to be a 1-score game. Skip Holtz, Wade Phillips, you got some of the best speed and athleticism in the UFL in the field. So get ready for some fireworks. I'm going to call for a 32-26 type of game here, but Birmingham is going to be the pick for me. I cannot wait, Zook, to see Adrian Martinez against these linebackers like Jordan Williams and Devontae Beckett. Will somebody finally be able to hold Martinez under his rushing?
Yeah, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
Because he just glides.
Right.
Doesn't look like he even has any effort when he runs. We talked about that plenty of times.
Yeah.
I mean, my pick, I'm taking the Stallions.